Now, it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you our second honorary member, Ms. Wendy McClelland. Ms. McClelland is an entrepreneur and marketing coach, recognized as a Canadian Entrepreneur of the Year nominee, and recognized by the New York Times for having a top business website. Upon invitation, she has worked with the Chamber of Commerce in Sacramento and the Alberta Teachers Federation in web design. When she is not helping businesses unlock their potentials, she volunteers with an organization that facilitates refugee settlement into Canada. Please welcome Ms. McClelland to the stage.
Thank you. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much. It's so lovely to be able to meet you, and I had a great opportunity at the break to chat with some amazing new friends and find out about what their lives are going to be like. And it's always fun for me to come into an educational environment and feel that excitement, because this is where things happen, and this is where the change makers in the world are going to come from. So I'm really honored to be getting this award. I didn't even go to UBC, so this is like really cool. I went to the one up on the hill, it shall not be me. And I wanted to first mention Dr. Ross's speech, because she talked about leadership. And that's one of the things. I was actually working with a client today, helping him add some people into his team, and we were doing some interviews. And one of the themes was every person in an organization has a leadership role. No matter where you are in your life, you can be a leader. So I would encourage you to take Dr. Ross's words to heart, because those will hold true to you for the rest of your life. So I want to share a little bit about my story with you. When I left university, I thought I was going to become a mom, and I actually went to work for a while, and then I had children, and all of a sudden, in my mid-30s, I was actually an apprentice midwife. I was helping moms have healthy babies. And I loved that work, and I was about 6 months away from getting my certificate to be a licensed midwife in the province of British Columbia. And in those olden days, you didn't have to have a Bachelor of Science to do that, so I was racing to get through this, so I didn't need to go back to school for another 4 years. And all of a sudden, my husband of 12 years, my partner for 20, came home and said, I want to be married, but not to you anymore. And I was like, okay, change of plans. I had 3 children under the age of 10. I didn't have a university degree, and I didn't want to leave my young kids for 10, 12 hours a day in childcare after the trauma of their death leaving. So I thought, okay, what do I know how to do really well? Thank goodness I had taken typing in high school. You would call it keyboarding now. But because I could, and still type about 95 words a minute, I thought, I'm going to start a little typing business. But I had no cash, I had no money. But Future Shop let you get a computer with no money down for 6 months. I thought in 6 months I could pay this sucker off. So I went and I got this computer and I brought it home, and I want to share with you a funny little story. This is how technologically unskilled I was. I brought out this computer home, I set it up, put the mouse on the pad, and I picked it up and I waved it at the screen. And my son, who was 10 at the time, said, no, Mom, this is how you do it. So that's how unevolved I was in terms of technology, but I learned pretty quick. And I went around, I started typing term papers for university students. I live out in Abbotsford, so I went up to University College of Fraser Valley, and I made myself do 10, you talked about cold calls. I made myself do 10 cold calls every morning by 10 a.m. I traded childcare with a friend. I went to Value Village to get secondhand clothes for a business-looking outfit, because all I really had was clothes I would wear to help catch babies, and you don't kind of dress up for that. And I didn't know anybody in the business community, so I had to literally just knock on doors. And I started by creating menus for restaurants, brochures and flyers. And what started to happen was people would say, oh, we're having trouble on this day of the week, or business is slow. And marketing just came really naturally to me. And I was able to offer suggestions to people that worked. And so they started referring people to me, and my business started to grow. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm an entrepreneur. And one day my local Chamber of Commerce phoned and said, we hear what you're doing in the community, would you come in and coach for a day? We've got 3 or 4 business owners coming in, we just kind of like you to help them out. I said, sure. Well, after doing that, which was really fun, The next day, I got a call from the University College saying, hey, we hear what you were doing over at the chamber. Would you come in and teach for a day? And I said, I don't have a degree. And they said, no, you'll be a visiting instructor, and it's in our entrepreneur program. And this was like a 6-month program that people went through. And I said, okay. So I said, where are the students in this course? And he said, well, they're all kind of at different phases. Some are on their business plan, some are on their marketing plan. And I freaked the guy out because I said, how about we just call this, bring me your toughest business problem. I will come in with no plan, and we'll just free flow all morning. He was like, I said, don't worry, it'll be fine. And it was awesome. And in fact, now that's one of my favorite workshops. No plan, just come in and throw the business problems at me and brainstorm solutions. And at the end of the day, the prof who was sitting in the back said, loved what you did, would you design an entire curriculum for us? And so I created a whole curriculum that were like day-long Saturday workshops that people could take. So many things relating to being an entrepreneur. And this is like 1995, so this is pre-everybody having the internet on their phone days. And one of the things I want you to think about that I always encourage my clients to think about is when you had a win, like my win of getting that opportunity to teach at the college, ask yourself, how do I take this to the next level? How can I bump this up to get more opportunity out of it? So what I did was I thought, well, talk radio. So many people starting home-based businesses. This is mid-1995, but not a lot of accessible resources. So I drove out to my local talk radio station. I did not have an appointment. I did not know the name of the marketing manager, and I did not have a proposal because at that time I didn't even know what a business proposal was. But the manager gracefully gave me 10 minutes of his time. I explained what I was doing at the college, and he said, well, let me talk it over my team and I'll call you back. It was a Thursday. He phoned me back that evening. He said, we love the idea. Can you have 10 scripts ready by Monday morning? Okay. And he said, by the way, we're into this new thing called the internet, and everybody that works with us has to have an internet connection and an email address. I said, okay. I phoned the only internet company in the phone book. And in those days, actually, it had to come to your house and plug it in and set it all up, and then you would turn on your phone line, you'd hear that me. And so he set up, and my kids were with their dad that weekend. And so I literally, Friday night, sat down in front of that computer, and except getting up for something to eat or go to the bathroom, I didn't go to bed till Sunday night. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the future. Only 200,000 web pages at the time. I saw General Motors and Kraft Foods and all these big companies, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. So I learned HTML code, got this massive sheet of paper, drew out what I wanted, worked with a graphic designer, and we built a website. 3 weeks later, I get a call from a guy in LA, and he says, I just wondered how you feel about being on the New York Times list today. I said, what list? New York Times? What are you talking about? And he says, oh yeah, your site was picked as one of the best business sites on the net. Okay. Oh, and by the way, they picked Bill Gates' Microsoft site too, same day. Question in my brain, how to leverage this, sent out a nationwide press release. Within 1 year, I had 12 web designers working for me. And I was traveling all over Western Canada and the United States, talking about how to use this new thing called the Internet for Business. So life kind of, when it takes a curve and you go down a hill that you think is going to lead you one direction, you just never quite know where it's going to go. And in the summer of 1999, I was really honored. I was a nominee for Canadian Entrepreneur of the Year. My business was going great. My kids were doing well. And all of a sudden, I wasn't feeling very well. And I kept going to the doctor. My kids had had a stomach bug, and theirs went away, but mine didn't. And I was like losing 2 or 3 pounds every day. I had bleeding sores in my throat. I was feverish, 103 fevers. Nobody could tell me what was wrong. And over a period of 6 weeks, I had to shut the whole business down. I had to give up custody of my children to my ex-husband and his new wife. And I literally was in bed. And nobody could tell me what was wrong. And finally one night I phoned a girlfriend and I said, you've got to get me to the hospital, I can't even walk. And she took me in, and the doctor went to take my blood pressure, and he said, I can't get a blood pressure from you. I have been hemorrhaging for 6 weeks. And he said, we need to do massive blood transfusions tonight or you'll be dead by morning. So my parents were out of the country, and I wanted to talk to them first, and he said, no, we do this tonight or you're not here tomorrow. Okay, decision made. What it turned out to be was E. coli, which is probably on every single surface in this room. And it's a very common bacteria. I don't know how I picked it up, but what it ended up doing was going into my spine, and it ate away the lower 3 vertebrae, 2 discs, 1 kidney, and gave me brain damage. So I spent 63 days in Vancouver General with a PICC line into my heart, massive doses of Cipro, and lots of other therapies. And then they were going to do surgery, and I said, you know, this surgery was very dangerous. They wanted to cut me open in the front, put in some steel rods, sew me up, flip me over, cut me open, and do the same in the back. I said, is there not another option? And he said, well, there's an old-fashioned option we could try, and that's a body cast. I said, let's do that. So I was in plaster from here to my knees, and I spent 4 months in that to fuse the bone fragments back around the spinal cord. And I had to learn how to walk again when that came off, and I also had to learn how to speak again. I'm very comfortable talking in front of a crowd, but when I came out of that hospital, I couldn't even put 3 words together. So I went back to my kids' elementary school books, their crossword puzzles, their reading books, their math books, and I just started learning again. And now one of the topics that I'm really interested in is brain elasticity and how you can retrain your brain, because it's quite fascinating the things that our brain can do, even after damage. And so I had to rebuild my life. I had no income for 2 years. I ended up going bankrupt and losing my home that I purchased, this cute little house that I loved, that I bought after my divorce, and having to start over again. But one of the lessons that I've learned in my life of all the times I have had to start over is, one, we're stronger than we think. And when those things hit us, we have an opportunity to really dig deep and find that strength and that power that's within us. And last December, it's been 15 years now, I felt strong enough to write my story. Because it's still, for me, I still live in pain 24 hours a day, so I still feel the effects of this illness. But I felt mentally strong enough to write my story. So when I was in the hospital, I was in this body cast. I came out, and my parents, I love my mom and dad, they took me into their house and took care of me. And they had a very nice flat driveway, and I had this goal of walking from their front door to the end of their driveway. If I could do that in one go, I knew I was on my way to recovery. It took about 3 weeks to do it, but I finally did it, got to the end of the driveway. And for some reason, coming back, I counted how many steps it was. And it was 27 steps. Don't know why I counted them, but that number was in the back of my head for 15 years. So last December, I wrote my book called 27 Steps to Freedom, What Learning to Walk Again Taught Me About Success in Business and Life. And these are just the life lessons that I learned during that time. And I wanted to share just 3 of the most important ones with you that I try to live by all of them, but these are the 3 that guide my life every single day. And the first one is having an open mind and asking for help. And I think in a university setting, you have such an opportunity. You have people from different cultures, you have people from, even if they're just from a school across town, people that you've never met, people that have had different life experiences, people of different ages. Soak that in, learn from that, because we live in this global world now, and we see so much going on that relates to our differences. If you can make those connections here in a school, the similarities we have are much deeper than the differences that drive us apart. And when you have that within you and you take that out into the world, you can truly, truly make an impact. And the second one is gratitude. And this is one that has helped me survive for 15 years. There were times when, after my illness and I was in recovery, and I didn't even know how I was going to put food on the table for my children. And each night I had a practice, and I still do, of being grateful for 5 things. And some nights it's just the roof over my head. I've got some food in the fridge. Now I have amazing grandkids. I volunteer at this animal shelter where every time you go in you get mauled by dogs. I mean, just all those things that are sort of simple things, but they're really what gives us life and what makes us appreciate what we have. And I think especially in our world today, with everyday environment, with all the awful things going on in the world, by having that sense of gratitude every single day, it changes your perspective, and it helps you realize that you can make a difference in this world, even if there's horrible things going on around you. And the third one is share what you've learned. And that's why I do what I do. My life right now is focused mostly on working with business owners and organizations and helping them understand how to use social media to get their message out. Share what you've learned. If you have an opportunity, even talking to somebody on the bus. And I know women tend to be have a little easier time with this, and I don't want to generalize, but that's just been my experiences. I remember when I was married, and I would come home and I would tell my husband about this person I met in the grocery store. He'd go, "How long are you talking to her for?" 5 minutes, and you learn how many kids she has and where she got married, where she went on vacation, and her favorite food. Oh yeah. And yet, men don't tend to engage in those conversations as much. And if there's anything I can say to the guys in the audience, I'd encourage you to start chatting with people. And even if you're in the grocery store and you're picking up an orange, or you see somebody, I often, in the produce department, because I'm a vegetarian, is when I see people picking up fruit or vegetables I'm not familiar with, I'll ask them, what are you going to do with that? So I've learned about bitter melon, and I've learned about all these other different foods that I wouldn't have been exposed to. So start conversations with people that are different and share what you know. So thank you so much for listening to this story. And thank you very much for the honor. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.